How's it going, guys? Persona Cheese here, and today I'll be figuring out the best fire persona in Persona 4 Golden. Before we get started, let me clarify something. I'll only be discussing dedicated fire personas, not any persona that can learn fire moves, since dedicated ones usually learn moves like Fire Boost and Fire Amp, as well as Argydyne and Marargydyne without having to inherit them, making them generally better for using fire. Our two contenders are Cert and Marta. I did consider putting at least one more persona like Jin in this list, but he doesn't really do anything that Cert or Marta don't do better, and all the fire personas before Jin simply don't have the stats or the moves to compare to these two in the late game. So with that all out the way, let's get into it. First up is Cert. Cert starts at level 69, and whilst most of his stats are just decent and his magic is only slightly better than say Jin's, his affinities are really good, and beyond that his moves are amazing. On top of learning Fire Amp to buff his damage, he learns Null Ice, getting rid of his only weakness, and Ragnarok, which does severe fire damage to one foe. This is the strongest fire move in the game that the main character Yu can get, and is especially handy against some of the tougher late game bosses. Of course, the SP cost combined with Yu's somewhat depressing amount of max SP is pretty troublesome, but you can mitigate this with a ton of SP items or the Spellmaster skill, or completely counteract it with the Victory Cry skill. But of course, Victory Cry is extremely hard to get, with only Lucifer and the New Game Plus exclusive persona learning it by default, so I never really use Ragnarok for this reason. Second, we have Marta. Starting at level 78, Marta is unlocked by maxing out Yosuke's Social Link, and he's the highest level dedicated fire persona in the game. So he must be the best, right? Well, in some ways, yes, but Cert actually beats Marta in a few categories. In terms of stats, Marta is much stronger than Cert. His strength, agility, and luck are about the same, but his magic and endurance are far better than Cert's. He also learns Marargydyne and Fire Amp, like Cert, so he doesn't miss out on either of those, but unlike Cert, he has Fire Boost from the get-go, which stacks with Fire Amp for some super high damage. His other moves, however, aren't quite as good. He starts with Foolish Whisper, which applies silence to all foes, and learns Ailment Boost to help with this, but these two moves are kinda crap in my opinion. Silence isn't bad compared to other ailments, it stops enemies from using magic moves, and that sounds great, but there's a big problem. It almost never works on bosses, and for me, bosses are the only enemies I consider using silence on in the first place, so that makes silence pretty much worthless for me. He learns Evade Ice too though, and that's pretty good, but it doesn't beat Cert's Null Ice by any means. Cert also has better affinities, with a Null and a Repel as opposed to one Repel, and Ragnarok. If you're finding this video interesting or helpful, please feel free to click the like button. So, which one's the best? Honestly, I spent longer than I care to admit thinking about this, but I've come to an answer. I'd say Marta's better, just by a bit. Marta's Fire Boost and higher magic stat make his overall damage better than Cert's. Obviously, this may not apply if you're using Cert for Ragnarok, but it costs 48 SP, and I'm not including specific moves that they can potentially learn if you use the right fusion combination and have the right personas, like Spellmaster in this decision. Now, Cert might be better if you have enough time to level him up and improve his stats and get the right moves on him like Spellmaster, but to make this video more useful, I'm operating under the assumption that a fair amount of people watching this video don't intend to play New Game Plus or grind for hours on end to get every persona's stats maxed or anything like that. So I'd argue that Marta is the better choice overall. And if you want to see the most expensive persona in Persona 4 Golden, then check out this video too.